Now, what else might we have to determine in a qualified medical evaluation, a QME evaluation? Well, another issue we already talked about, permanent stationary status. We already talked about, well, that's one, determining if the person has leveled off and perhaps they are pre-injury. In other words, they're back to the place before the injury occurred. That could be one of the factors involved with permanent and stationary, that you can be permanent stationary but back to pre-injury, and so there are no residuals, there's nothing left over, and so you don't need future medical treatment because you're back to where you were before. There's no apportionment related because you don't have any kind of a disability or a residual impairment. But let's say you do, you're permanent stationary, and there is some kind of disability or impairment that you have. Now, it is possible that part of that impairment was due to a previous disability that you had. You might have had an injury on the job and something happened that caused, let's say, a restriction in the movement of your arm. And so after that last case, you were determined to have X percentage disability that was rateable to your arm. And so you start out with that, and then you had another injury, and then you couldn't move it. You can move it even less. So we have to determine how much of the current injury that you have, how much of that disability, how much of that impairment is due to the current injury, and how much is due to the past injury or the past disability you have. That is what is referred to as apportionment. We are giving a portion of this current disability or impairment to previous injury, a previous condition, or a pre-existing condition that would have developed into this condition if it was just naturally allowed to develop. So apportionment is an additional issue that may or may not have to be addressed in your QME evaluation. I hope that's helpful. Discussing what apportionment